Judas Priest with Sinner off of Sin After Sin. And before that, 2 tracks off of Ayrion's latest release called The Source. And I don't say the latest disc because Ayryon, when they put out a release, it's very often 2 discs because it's like a whole project. It's not just a group of songs. It's concepts and stories and multiple vocalists and orchestration and all sorts of crazy stuff. Arjun Lucassen, I believe, is the name of the brainchild with Ayryon. He gathers a whole bunch of people, and they make a huge audio production. Uh-oh, low battery. What am I going to do? The 2 tracks you heard from Ayryon off of The Source were Planet Y is Alive and Journey is Forever. And if you want to know what the story of that release is, such that the song is called Planet Y is Alive, well, go find it. I got it on Amazon and just downloaded the audio files. It was like, I don't know, $10, $13 for a double disc release. That's not bad. But I'm Ken the Metal Professor, and this is sort of wrapping up Mostly Metal here. The theme was new and old. I played you some new tracks off of, for instance, the brand new Angra CD, Omni. Check that one out if you like good, fast, rhythmic power metal. And that Ayryon release is not too old itself. And then I also played some old stuff like old Black Sabbath and Maiden. And then you just heard Priest as well. Next week, I have no idea what I'm going to do. In fact, for next week, I will probably have to pre-record the show because I will be traveling and won't be here. But I don't want to leave you in the lurch, and I don't want you to have to listen to a rebroadcast unless it's absolutely necessary. And so I'll get something in the can and have the crack WVLP technical staff upload that thing into the stream and have it ready to go. But otherwise, for the rest of this evening until 10 p.m. here in Valparaiso on WVLP, we've got the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program.
Your insubordination will not be tolerated.
Yes, indeed, WVLP likes to talk wrestling, or at least one person at WVLP likes to talk wrestling. I'm Ken the Metal Professor. This is the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program for this Sunday evening, March 4th, 2018. If you missed the Mostly Metal broadcast that preceded this, or if you want to hear what is about to go on here wrestling-wise, again, this entire 2-hour block will play again Wednesday night from 10 to midnight, 10 p.m. to midnight. That's not 10 a.m. to midnight where it just plays over and over and over for most of the day. I would love that, but nobody else would. So I'll just stick with one replay, 10 p.m. to midnight. So here's what we're going to do for the next 40 minutes. I'm going to tell you about shows, and then we will listen to a phone interview I did with Jaden Michael Quick. He was not able to be here in person tonight, so we talked on the phone. I recorded it. Yes, he knew I was recording. I was not being like the FBI or anything like that. And he had some good stuff, and so you'll get to listen to that coming up very shortly. Last night, though, I drove out to South Bend, and I watched EHF's Hardcore Hysteria. Now, this was a very long card, and it had multiple tag team matches because the main structure of the night was a tag team tournament to crown the brand new EHF tag team champions. And so there were 8 teams in the mix to start with, and it whittled down to 1. And by the end of the evening, the Saints, managed by Mr. Damian Saint, took away those titles. And so we'll see more of them shaking those things around and holding them up in people's faces in the next several months. Now, my guest coming up in the latter half hour of this 9 to 10 hour, Jaden Michael Quick, he pulled triple duty last night. You'll hear him talking in this phone interview you're going to listen to soon that was recorded Wednesday night. This is before the event, and so we were kind of wondering what was going to happen, and so you'll get to hear his thoughts going into it. he talked about doing double duty during the recording. He actually ended up pulling triple duty. He had a match on the pre-show. Now, the main card went from 7 o'clock to probably about 10 or 10:30. There was a pre-show that started around 5:30 or a little bit afterwards and ran for like an hour. And that gives some of the younger guys a chance to get out there, even if they're not going to be on the main card. But some people showed up twice. Jaden Michael Quick showed up 3 times. He was in a match on the pre-show. He was in a tag team with Jared Kripke during the tag team tournament. Now, sadly, they were eliminated in the first round by the Saints, who did go on to win the whole thing. So I guess if you're going to lose to the Ultimate Champions, maybe that's not so bad. But there might have been a little shenanigans there. I'm not saying one way or the other. And then he came out later to participate in a multi-man ladder match where the goal was to get an open contract for EHF out of a briefcase suspended above the ring. And that match was crazy. There was flying and bumping and flipping. He was part of it. He got clocked in the head when he wasn't paying attention with a ladder that Jared Kripke had disgustedly tossed out through the ropes. And Jaden was out there and didn't expect that, and it went bonk, but he's all right. He wasn't seeing stars. But that ladder match was terrific. The other really neat thing of the night, you've heard me mention Ames before, and he has not been a guest on the show yet. Maybe I'll fix that at some point. But he's always a great entertainer, gets the crowd really excited, comes out with a sexy tune, right? Dances around a little bit, goes and gets up close with the ladies. He had a really spectacular entrance where he had a small group of gentlemen come out in army fatigues as a little corps, march out to the ring, and then he burst out from under the ring. And how he had gotten under there without being seen was a neat little trick. And that crowd made a lot of noise when he made his entrance. And that was kind of neat to be at a relatively small indie show. I mean, it wasn't that small. There were over 300 people there. But to hear that kind of noise coming out of an entrance for one of these guys was really spectacular and good to see. EHF will be in action again multiple times over the next many months, and so you can hear me give you the heads up about that later on. They run in the South Bend and Southwest Michigan areas for the most part. Now, what else do we have coming up? We have a lot. This coming weekend, Friday, March 9th, is ACW March Meltdown. That will be at the DeMott Boxing Club. You've heard lots of ACW folks in here on the show. They're one of my favorite promotions to go see. Their shows are always a lot of fun. So I will be there this Friday night. It's at 6:30. Saturday, March 10th, if you're going to go see a show, you have a choice to make because there's 3 shows within the usual, what I call reasonable distance, that you have to pick from. In Crown Point, you have Black Label Pro's Jar of Flies. In Lake Station, you have ARW Pro running a show. And out in Mishawaka, South Bend, kind of the same thing, right? RCW, Rise of the Revolution. They're kind of kicking off their wrestling season with that show. So 3 shows, they're all in the evening. You can't go to one, then go to the other, so you're going to have to pick. I'm probably going to pick ARW Pro because I've been with them a long time. They're one of my favorites to watch. Black Label Pro, they'll be doing fine by themselves, whether I'm there or not. And RCW, well, that's the longest drive. And I just drove out to South Bend last night, and I'll probably be driving out there again the weekend after as well. So I might be heading for ARW Pro. But somebody else, do me a favor, and other people go to these other shows so we can spread ourselves around because we want to support everybody. Saturday, March 17th, Pro Wrestling King will be out in South Bend. See, I'm probably driving out there for that, for St. Patty's Day Brawl at the Beacon Community Center. PWK's high season for wrestling is starting up with this show, and after that, they're going to be running a lot, like multiple times a month in many cases. The weekend after that, March 24th, is Functified's Crossfire. Now, that's way out in Warsaw, so that's a hefty drive. But I don't know that there's other shows that same weekend, so what the heck? You might as well go out there. Then there's a little break because I hear there's a holiday of some sort in early April. Friday, April 13th will be another ACW show. Saturday, April 14th, already another PWK show. That will be in Bourbon, Indiana. Friday, April 20th will be another RCW show, their 8th anniversary bash out in South Bend. Saturday, April 28th, will be New Generation Wrestling having their 10th anniversary extravaganza down in Crawfordsville. Now, this is a lot to keep track of, so you can head to the NWIWRAP, NWIWRAP.WVLP @gmail.com. Pull up that calendar. It should be publicly accessible. Subscribe to it in your own calendar, and you will have all these events, boom, right into your own calendar, and so you won't forget them. I hope I have most of the information correct. But that's what's going on very, very soon. I'm going to be spending a lot of gas money going to these shows, but it's so much fun. I can't help myself. For the rest of the show here, for the rest of the 32, 33 minutes, please join me in listening to this interview that I did with Jaden Michael Quick earlier this week, captured on phone. The sound's he's going to sound great. I don't know how I'm going to sound, because when I recorded this through Google Voice and then downloaded the sound file, pull it up in Audacity and you can see what the sound file looks like. Whenever he's speaking, the sound wave, the waveform is high and crisp and sharp, and then when I'm speaking, there are these little tiny little bumps in the middle. So I think you'll be able to hear us both, but the important thing is that my guest will sound better than me. So here we go. Sit back, get comfortable, and listen to Jaden Michael Quick talk to us about wrestling.
Now here on the line at WVLP is Jaden Quick. Thank you, Jaden, for taking time to talk to me today.
No problem, man.
And just for truth in advertising, we'll tell the listeners that we are not live in the studio tonight. This is being pre-recorded. And you have definitely shown the patience of a saint working with me to get this going here.
Oh, not a problem, man. It's going to be fun.
I think so. This is like the third time we tried to schedule something, and it finally worked out. So this is awesome.
Yes, finally.
So I have seen you mostly in PWK events, and for the listeners that haven't seen you, don't know who you are just yet, just start from the basics and tell everybody kind of who you are and what they can expect from a Jaden Quick match and what you like to do.
Well, I get the nickname Prince of High Risk. Not really. I don't do much like crazy, super cool stuff. I try to keep it fast paced, entertaining for the crowd. If you like Backstreet Boys, that's a definite you'll get with me. I come out to Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. You'll notice me right away. I wear bright pink clothes, gear. You'll see me mostly in, you can see me a lot of me in tag team matches, for sure.
Okay.
I've definitely made a name of that in, the last 8 years. I've been seen doing some hardcore stuff. Myself and Adam Bueller had a Lego death match.
That was in Bourbon last summer, right?
I think it was in Lakeville.
Lakeville? Okay.
Yeah,
I think I saw that. Was it outdoors or indoors?
It was indoors. It was at a gym.
Okay. I think I saw it, but my mental image of it is at that outdoor pavilion in Bourbon. So you
got the in-ring stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to keep things entertaining for sure.
So you said 8 years. That's how long you've been doing this?
Yeah, I started training in 2009 and had my first match a year later. So guys, I guess going on 8 years, going on them.
This is sort of a standard question that I ask folks, and if you've done a lot of interviews before, you've probably answered it umpteen times, but what was kind of that formative experience you had that you saw somebody doing this wrestling stuff, and you said, that looks awesome, I want to do it myself?
I was actually at a friend's house. I was probably 7 or 8. Didn't really care much for it, I guess, at the time. I was mostly into, like, whatever 7 or 8-year-olds are into, like action figures, whatnot, video games. But a buddy of mine was watching, their older brother was watching, I guess a DVD. I saw Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty on, the barbershop segment. When Shawn Michaels finally turned on Marty, and I was like, that's really cool. I really want to do this stuff or watch it.
Did you get support from your family at the time? And you said, "Hey, I want to start training to do this wrestling stuff. What do you guys think?" What kind of reaction did you get?
Well, I'm pretty sure they probably laughed it off as, oh, it's a phase for boys to go through. And, you know, my dad would take me to wrestling events. When I got to be 13, I started going to some. And then I was, 16 when I finally went to a show out in Elkhart, Indiana. And I talked to the promoter afterwards, and he's like, get your parents, your mom to sign a release form, and we can start training you this week. I was like, oh, I'm on it. And the feedback I got from my parents were shaky. My mom obviously was like, oh, I don't want you to get hurt. My dad just didn't care for wrestling. And of course, my three siblings were all about it. They got to see me do what we all kind of grew up watching at that point.
And it seems like... Go ahead.
And my dad, even though he didn't really care for it, he'd still come to the shows all the time. He couldn't resist it.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. If my daughters are teenagers, and one of them actually kind of likes watching wrestling a little bit, and she's pretty athletic. So if someday she decided she wanted to do it, I would be there all the time.
Oh yeah.
Now, so you were talking when you first started, you know, like being around 13 when you first got into it, and then 16 when things really got underway. And before we started recording, you mentioned that this was a good time to talk because the kids were in bed. So a lot of changes have happened for you. So how are you doing at juggling life now with kids and all sorts of, sadly grown-up responsibilities? How do you work out juggling your wrestling life with all the family life?
Honestly, my fiance actually helps a lot. She's been pushing me to try pursuing it more. In that, I got the kids, no big deal. Sometimes I'll even actually bring the kids to shows with me. And they'll just tag along. My oldest stepson is 8, and he's like, "Oh, can I just come with you? Let everyone else stay with mommy. I'll go sit by myself." But it's definitely gotten easier since I actually just got out of the Army last year.
Oh.
So it's helped tremendously to help balance things.
What's the worst thing that your son has chanted at you from the audience if he's sitting by himself? Or does he normally cheer for you?
Occasionally he will cheer, but if he sees that I am portraying a villainous character, he will chant "You suck" or "Pinky" or "Boo." He likes booing a lot more than he likes cheering. Oh yeah,
that's awesome. And so you had siblings when you were growing up, and when I've seen you at shows, I've seen you wrestle by yourself, but I've also seen Jordan Quick. So we got Jaden Quick and Jordan Quick. Is he one of your brothers?
Yes, I have 2 sisters, and he's the brother I have. Yes.
Okay. Are the sisters doing this at all too, or just you guys?
The oldest one is 22. She trained a little bit before getting pregnant and just hasn't done it. And my youngest sister is 15, and she's actually expressed to me that in the past that she does want to do it.
That's good.
So, yeah, her grades are iffy at times, so I'm like, fix your grades, then we can work on it.
So you guys have like a family empire building here.
Oh yeah, definitely. My kids, my 3-year-old especially, and he's my oldest biological son. He's going to be the wrestler for sure.
Sure.
So we've already got a second generation going.
That's great. When I've seen you at cards with your brother, there have been instances where it seemed like things were not really all right with you guys, and maybe you were on opposing ends of viewpoints of things going on in the wrestling world. So can you kind of tell that story about as you and your brother are working your way through, let's say PWK or other promotions that you're at, the instances where you've kind of bonded together or instances where suddenly you found yourself at odds?
Yeah, he came into the business in 2014. So he was, he was only 16 at that time. He started wrestling like a week after his 16th birthday. And we tag teamed for the next 2 years. But in July of 2016, and it was at PWK, when it came to PWK, we were a solid tag team there. Other feds, we'd wrestle singles or they'd bring us in as a tag team. But, PWK, actually in North Liberty, it was around July, summer of 2016. It was actually a little bit around the time that you're talking about the confrontation between us. He turned on me. And, so we started a very, hot feud after that. Although it stopped for a while because, Jordan had his own things going on. He's only 19 now. So this happened when he was 18. So he had his own things going on, so he put wrestling to the side, for a couple months. When he came back, we ended up, continuing where we left off. Had a couple solid matches, before he had more things come up recently again. But yeah, we tried to build it to, a nice, like, personal, level, I guess. And I think it's actually, more exciting to have a feud with him at that time because we, we grew up doing this stuff, like, in our house or in our backyard together. And I guess it's easier to beat up your brother than it is, most other people.
I imagine you guys gel together in the ring pretty well, too.
We have that natural, ring chemistry, yeah.
So you have that going for you, and you don't have to pull your punches quite as much, and you can hit them a little bit harder than you can hit other people, I suppose.
Definitely. Definitely.
We've both been talking about PWK using the initials, and for folks that don't know, that's Pro Wrestling King, one of the many wrestling promotions that are active kind of in the north central Indiana area and around there. They're coming up on, I guess, what I would call the start of their season, where they're going to kick off pretty soon with a show, and they're going to be running a lot of shows this summer. So are you anticipating to be very active with them this year?
Yes. Eric, the promoter for PWK, always getting a hold of me. Hey, we got these shows coming up. I think he's got me planned up for shows till July at this point. And they're also branching off, I guess. Eric is trying a new side project called PWK Renegade, which is going to be a once a month show, in South Bend, Indiana. And, he's already got me down for I think he's got 8 of those shows lined up for this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I think you're next, if I'm remembering my Facebook information correctly, because that's where I learn everything. You're working also for EHF soon?
Yes, sir.
So that's coming up pretty quick. You want to say something about what's? I don't know what the letters EHF stand for because I just became aware of them last year, I think. But they're starting to work in the South Bend area a little bit more. I think they're creeping down out of Michigan mostly and getting closer to us.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know what the EHF stands for, but tell us about that and what's going on there.
I'm trying to remember the initials for EHF. It's completely going over my head. But they started up in Niles.
F stands for Federation.
Wild guess out there. I do believe it's Entertainment is somewhere in there.
Okay.
But yeah, they started up in Niles, I think, a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. I came to the Fed when they were in Buchanan, in April of last year. They did a series of shows in April, actually week after week shows in April, where I kind of came into it and from then on became a mainstay there, I guess. Myself and actually one of the guys who trained me, Tyler Matthews, kind of took over as the head trainers for some of the EHF trainees. A lot of the guys there are about 2.5 years into the business at this point. But lately, a friend of mine, Adam Nielsen, has taken over the creative side, I guess, of EHF, and it's actually been a lot better. No offense to Joe Simpson, who was a head of creative before, but Adam's been doing it for such a long time. He's got the ropes down to this show really well. And the next show we actually have coming up is Saturday, so I guess when this is put up, it'll be yesterday.
Correct.
And we have a big tag team tournament. It's going to be great.
Do you have a particular role in what's going on other than I think you were scheduled for a singles match with Sedan? Is that still correct? No, me and Sedan had our at EHF. You're talking about? Yeah. No, it was at PWK. Am I getting those confused? Oh, well, me and Sedan had our own little segment. We did at EHF. At PWK, I have coming up a match with DW Kelly, who's one of the EHF bred superstars I know, which I'm excited for. He's the guy I kind of took him under my wing. He was one of the guys I kind of gave advice to when he first started. And I've yet to have a match with him, so I'm excited to have a little one-on-one with him. That'll be good. So what is your role in the EHF show that's for us coming up in a few days from now, and then when, as you said, when this airs, it's too late. We'll hope for the best, that good things happen. But do you have a particular role in there? Are you in the tag team tournament? Are you going against somebody that you have a history with, or is it a relatively random draw? What's going on there? My match, they've got me in a couple segments, I guess. They want to use some of their not so well trained guys in the pre-show with some of their farther along workers, and I guess I'd take it as an honor that I get to be in the pre-show and work the main card. So I got a pre-show match with a couple of trainees. I got the tag team tournament. I am in it with Jared Kripke, my tag team partner, against two guys that are they go by the Saints, Overdose and Nevermore. And I've been going on with that faction in a pretty intense feud, I'd say, for the last year. So when I started this off by saying you had the patience of a saint for working with me to schedule this, I probably should have chosen my words a little bit better then, I suppose. Right. Yeah, I like working with them. They've come a long way since I first started working with them. Nice. The tag team. And based on your styles, I think you and Jared Kripke will, I don't know if you've worked as a tag team with him before, but that looks like a good pairing. Yes, we've worked a couple matches with PWK as a tag team to work a storyline against the Rat Pack. And we wrestled guys like Sean Tyler and Russ Jones, which was awesome clash of styles. At a show in Kokomo, which is also ran by Adam Nielsen. We had a really, really hot match in a street fight against Spirit of Detroit. I love looking back on that match. It's a lot of fun. When you see Jared, make sure that he can count the correct number of fingers you're holding up, because he took a splat out of the ring at the local ACW show here a weekend or two ago, where he yeah, it was a triple threat. He was going for a suicide dive right out through the ropes, and I think there was a miscommunication or something, and the two people he was jumping at both just kind of stepped aside, and so he just went right on the floor, and everybody was kind of unfortunate for a while. He's a good guy. He's great. And actually, ACW is a show that's actually gotten a hold of me recently. Asked me if I'd be interested in coming back there. Oh, that's great. Yeah. I really enjoy going to their shows.
Oh yes, yeah. I've been there once, and it was a couple years ago, and I actually had a match against Jordan.
Okay, I'm sorry, against who?
Jordan, my brother.
Oh, right. Yeah, the sound broke up for a second there.
Oh no, you're good. But yeah, Jared and I have been teaming up, not as often as I'd like, but, he's a great guy. He's been trained by Billy Rock, so he definitely knows his way around the ring.
Right. Between or besides PWK and EHF, are there any other promotions sort of in this general region that you regularly work for?
I used to work with RCW and FWF fairly often. RCW, they've got a lot of guys that they had spots for before me, so I was not brought back as often. And FWF actually recently got a hold of me as well, and they're trying to bring me back for this year.
Okay, great.
And there's actually a new fed called Heartland Championship Wrestling, which is getting ready to start up in June in South Bend. That's asked me to come there too.
Wow, another one in South Bend. That's getting to be a busy place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What's the farthest you've traveled to be in a show?
Puerto Rico.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I was in talks with the guy who traveled all across the United States, and he would go down there probably twice a year, and I got a chance to go with him to go work in I want to say it was Isabel, Puerto Rico, but I'm not 100% positive. But it was a great experience. It was a little bit of a language barrier, but it was a lot of fun.
I'm going to take a second here because we've been talking for, looks like about 20 minutes, just in case anybody has randomly landed on this on the radio dial. I need to mention that they're listening to WVLP from Valparaiso, Indiana, and we are at 103.1 FM. And people that want to stick around for this conversation or listen to other things on the station and you're not in the immediate Valparaiso area, you can dial us up on the internet streaming all the time at WVLP.org. So that's all. That's the business portion of the broadcast. So Puerto Rico is the farthest distance that you've traveled to wrestle. What's the largest number of shows you've worked in a single weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Have you ever had multiple show weekends?
Yes. One that I distinctly remember is I worked a Friday show, went to a show on Saturday morning. It was an early afternoon show. Went back home, wrestled a show in South Bend, and then had a show on a Sunday. So I get four shows in a weekend.
Oh, yikes. How did you feel on Monday morning?
Sore. Tired, exhausted. Yeah, it's the life of a wrestler.
I guess. I mean,
it hasn't happened often. I know. Well, I know there's guys who do way more than that in a weekend. I couldn't imagine. I know Adam Bueller wrestles so much. Jake Omen, a lot of them.
And he goes quite a distance sometimes too. I think he just got back from California working
Adam
out there.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it involved lots of bleeding.
Definitely. I've when I had Snapchat, I would keep track of him on Snapchat. It's great. It's probably one of the best things I've ever done.
He's been in here in the studio once. He was a couple of months ago, and he's always a lot of fun to talk to.
Oh, he's great. He actually took me under his wing when I first actually met him at a PWK show, and we had a few solid matches together, and he's actually really helped me transition, I guess, my style of wrestling.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting that, you've been doing this for 8 years with some breaks in between, and you've grown and evolved from, the young guy in the room to now, as you say, at EHF, you're working on the pre-show in the role of being one of the more experienced people to be bringing along some of the the trainees that they have working with them. How have you, like, what have you noticed about that process? Is there a distinct point when you finally said, you know, I've really gotten to where I need to be, and I'm not really learning so much as now that I'm working and helping other people?
I have not felt that way, actually, because I tell people all the time when I'm training them or working with them that I'm still picking stuff up. One of my buddies will come in and show someone a certain way of doing things, and it clicks in my head. That's a great way of doing it. In my opinion, and I know a lot of people agree with me when I say this, that when you feel like you don't need to learn anything anymore, you need to, take a backseat in the wrestling business. It's time for you to get out. You quit at the top of your game.
Right. So after having been doing this for this length of time, what is your favorite thing about it all? What brings you back time after time?
Oh man, there's a lot of things. I love the adrenaline of wrestling. It keeps me going. If I go, like the winter break, things slow down, especially in Indiana. Things really start to slow down in wrestling. So, just the energy I get when I'm wrestling is addictive. And also, I love interacting with the crowd. Hence why I'm portrayed so much as a good guy. Is I'm always so happy when I come out. I love being around the crowd. I love interacting with them. It's really addicting.
I think you mentioned earlier that your entrance music tends to be very happy and poppy, upbeat music, like the Backstreet Boys. Do you have a pre-workout routine that involves any music, and is it the same kind of music to get yourself ready to go out there and work with the crowd?
I don't really have anything to work out to, but like on the way to a show, no matter how close or how far it is, I'll pop in a CD that's strictly a Backstreet Boys CD, or honestly, I'll just listen to. There's been occasions where I listen to Billy Joel on the way to a show, and I'm already hyped. It doesn't take me much, I guess.
Well, that's good. Music is supposed to do that for you.
Definitely.
What do you do to relax when you're not punching people in the face?
Oh man, wanting to punch kids in the face, I guess would be most accurate. No, there's not really much relaxed time, I would suppose, between work and the kids. Because when I get home, the kids automatically are like, "Oh, it's time to wrestle, isn't it?" So I guess the wrestling never really quits.
Right. I guess so. And that's true for me too. I when I started learning about all the wrestling that's going on around here, it's become sort of a very enjoyable and never-ending endeavor to try to keep up with it all, because there are so many groups and so many shows going on, and within a very reasonable distance, I think.
Oh yeah, a lot of them are really, really close, actually.
And speaking of time and shows, we've kind of been going at this for almost half an hour, so
oh wow!
If we can start, about a little over 25 minutes, I think. To start winding things up a little bit, we'll just sort of recap what's coming up immediately. So Saturday, March 3rd, it will be last night by the time this airs on WVLP. That will be EHF Hardcore Hysteria, and that will have been at the Century Center in South Bend. And even though that show's already over, it's good to give details, because the Century Center is a place where shows regularly happen, and getting people familiar with the wheres and the whens of these things is always good. Hopefully you're tagging with Jared Kripke against the Saints, and hopefully I can report along with this broadcast that you guys came out on top and maybe even went deeper into that tournament. Oh,
definitely. That would be a nice little report, wouldn't it? And actually, I just remembered at that same show, I have a ladder match as well.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah. Including Ames and Steven Drochner, I believe.
And neither one of them are going to be too shy about doing things like dropping themselves or you off of a ladder or onto a ladder.
Oh, never.
So that should be good.
Oh, definitely. I thoroughly enjoy working with both of them.
And what's coming up after that? You do have that. You have the PWK show coming up where you're going against D.W. Kelly. Do you remember the date of that one?
That is March 17th at the Beacon Center in South Bend.
Is that St. Patty's Day Brawl? Is that the name of that one?
I do believe so.
Okay.
And actually, the day before that, March the 16th, there's a show in Niles, Michigan at Niles High School for EHF as well.
Okay. All right. So you'll be busy.
Oh, yeah.
How many do you when the seasons start up? You know, like PWK is going to be running all the time, and when the weather improves so that places can run outdoors, things seem to pick up. And you mentioned maybe you might be visiting FWF again, and maybe even ACW. Is there a season during the year when basically you're on every weekend, and you don't get any weekends to kind of relax and chill?
Yes, that's usually hits from April till September or October is the consistent bookings.
That's great. That's a good time of year.
Oh yeah, definitely gets people busy.
If folks want to keep up with what you have going on, are there social media channels that they can take a look at, or what's the best way for folks to do that?
Probably the Pro Wrestling King fan page and the EHF fan page would be most reliable. I get tagged in shows I'm a part of on my Facebook page as well.
Okay. And neither of those promotions are shy about posting lots of stuff to Facebook, so
oh, no.
It is easy to come across.
Oh, definitely. They're very easy to find.
Is there anything else that you wanted to mention or plug, or just anything else you wanted to say?
I do believe the next big show for EHF is going to be at the Century Center in South Bend. I'm not sure exactly what's planned, but I definitely have heard that's going to be a big show. Okay.
And I will kind of shamelessly plug something for myself, which is I have a Google Calendar, which is NWIWRAP, NWIWRAP, @gmail.com, and I do try to put on the calendar all of these different shows that I become aware of, and this calendar is, I think, it should be, subscribable to the public. So if you go into Google Calendar and pull that up, you can populate your own calendar with all the shows that I've come across and have loaded up, and that will definitely include all the EHF shows that I see, the PWK shows, RCW, FWF, ACW. Now we've got Backbreaker Wrestling going on out here in
I've heard of them.
Indiana. Black Label Pro in Crown Point, they started up recently. You said Heartland is starting up in South Bend, so man,
yes.
It's going to be
great time for wrestling.
It is. It's hard to keep up with this stuff, but it's also so much fun. So I have so much fun just kind of watching it. I can't imagine how much fun you guys have when you actually get to do it.
Oh, it's amazing. I absolutely love it.
Okay.
24 and it's still growing.
It's been great talking to you for actually at least half an hour now. That was impressive. We did a good job.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I will look forward to, I'm going to try to make the EHF show this weekend, and hopefully I'll say hi. And then when this airs on Sunday, I will give a recap of everything that happened. And like I said, let's hope that includes you and Jared going deep into that tag team tournament.
Oh yeah, I would it'd be nice to have tag team titles again.
Definitely. Okay, well, thank you so much. It sounds like you have somebody awake again, so good luck getting
Oh yeah, of course, the baby.
Good luck with that.
Oh yeah.
And we'll do this again sometime once more things are going on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
You bet. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.